Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover everything and anything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris. Eddie.
And I'm Symbiote Brent.
Alliance, assemble. Volume 235, and we're already laughing already.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's all we can do.
You keep making the voice.
Oh, it's going to be coming in and out of this, but I'm not going to do the whole show like this because I will have no voice for this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we've made it to the end, the last dance, as it were, and right now, there's only going to be one, the last dance, that really truly matters at this point, and it's not this. It's not this.
Yeah, we're here. We're here. And you know what? We will be honest. And there's things I liked about this movie. There's things I didn't like about this movie, and I'll tell you which, and you can decide which one has more of them, I guess. But
yeah, we just wrapped up our Agatha Along review, so if you're looking for that, that's in the feeds. It's just a separate episode, so check that out. But yeah, Brent, how's been your week outside of this movie?
It's been a good week. It's been a good week. Yesterday, I got to go on a field trip with my son to the pumpkin patch, and that was a good time. It went really well. He had a blast. Brought home some pumpkin donuts for the family, which always is a hit. So it was good.
I am not a fan of everything pumpkin in the fall. I will gladly take apple cider. I'm more of an apple person.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's been a busy week. We're doing a lot of data digs in our grade levels at this point. So a lot of long meetings, a lot of serious conversations, and I'm a data nerd, so it speaks my language.
There you go.
But yeah, so you and I saw Venom: The Last Dance during our time when we be recording a show, and because we do it for you, the people, and because Sony continues to try to make things happen, like Fetch and other things, and man, but yeah, let's do some network plugs because I want to have some fun talking about this because there is some fun in this.
There was. Let's get there.
Yep. All right. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network, covering the wide range six shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers, our dollar tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows, including our original show. We can watch this all day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch. 24 episodes covering the Infinity Saga, breaking down all those for you. And then we've got our current show, Tales from the House of X, where we're watching our favorite X-Men movies from the Fox era. We have Deadpool 2, The Wolverine, Logan, X-Men, X2, and we are dropping on Monday what?
X-Men First Class.
X-Men First Class, yes, the soft reboot of the X-Men franchise, and that is our penultimate episode. We are getting ready to record in just a week or two our final episode for the series, X-Men Days of Future Past. So we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. We also have the DC Alliance guys doing their DC film through the years. We've got Joe on his Multiverse Minutes. We've got his Disney Deep Dives on the 1st and the 15th, covering the chronological viewing order of Disney animated films. And he's also coming to the end soon of his 30-plus days of Halloween. Definitely, Joe is carrying the lion's share of a work this month, though he's doing it because, again, it's fun for him. And I enjoy listening to that stuff as well. So, patrons, we hope you listen to that on top of the lovely back content. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network to subscribe. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, totally understand. But if you want to take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. This is just breaking on fresh off the press. The new pre-order catalog is live. Look at that right there. Wolverine Omnibus Volume 6. Rare when we get to that point.
Wolverine.
Look at that. Look at that direct market cover with all the different versions, including No-Nose Wolverine with the bone claws.
Bone. Yep. That's a post Fatal Attractions, right?
Yeah, post Fatal Attractions. We got another Wolverine Omnibus, Sabretooth War. Now collected for the first time in omnibus format.
That was a fun story.
It was. It was actually pretty well done. We got the reprint of Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 1 coming back into print just in time for the movie. See what else we got. Some Silver Surfer. We got Marvel Fanfare coming into Omnibus for the very first time. That's a deep pull. But if you want to order any of those, use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Let them know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. So I want to give I want to give a shameless plug for a new venture I'm going into, tied with OPB. My friends Jake and Jordan, who are the YouTube channel, The Brave and the Boys. We are starting a new venture with OPB every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel. We'll be breaking down the upcoming weeks of collected editions on OPB, giving you what's coming out, some recommendations, and enjoying some fun dialogue with the chat. So check that out, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Brave and the Boys channel. So, all right, Brent. Are you ready to oh, well, no, we got to talk about something else before we get into it. I know we keep delaying the inevitable. Next week, Agatha All Along wraps up.
Yes.
We record on Thursdays, but what is the Thursday for those that celebrate it?
Oh, it's Halloween.
Halloween. So, both of us have kids at trick-or-treating age. Brent actually is an hour behind me in time zone time, so my kids will be in bed, but his kids will actually still be out trick-or-treating, and he wants to be a good dad and not say, come on, kids, we're going to stop trick-or-treating early because Dad's got a podcast.
Right. That would not go well for me if we did that.
No, that would be, you'd be choosing violence at that point.
I would be. Yes.
So we will be delaying our recording for the final 2 episodes of Agatha All Along to Friday night. We're going live at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. So again, just a 24-hour delay, and the audio will drop Saturday morning. So just remember to keep that in mind. All right, and I see Phil in the chat and saying, was this really the last dance? Well, we'll see. Depending on how that budget comes, depending on how those box office comes, I don't know.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then maybe it was, because it's not looking great box office wise.
Yeah. So, all right. Non-spoiler thoughts on Venom, The Last Dance.
Well, I knew interest wasn't super high for this movie when I got to my theater and there was literally nobody in the lobby. No public people in the lobby. I don't remember the last time I've seen that. And it was 5:55 on a Thursday for a new movie coming out, and normally there would be people all over the place. I went into this movie with pretty low expectations. I think people know I'm not exactly the biggest cheerleader for the Venom franchise. I did like number 2 a little bit more than number 1, but that's a low bar. This movie is really disappointing in several ways. It sets up a mulligan. They set up rules around the mulligan, and they break those rules repeatedly. Excuse me, but they do it in like the dumbest possible ways. Like the motivate, like Venom's own, like the symbiote's own motivation switches throughout, and it makes no sense at times. And I found this to be really, really frustrating. Really, really frustrating. There was a few fun scenes. Mainly they revolved around action scenes or fight scenes. Mm-hmm. Yes, some of the back and forth between Venom and Eddie was comical, but overall,
Eddie.
I don't mean that, no. But the inconsistencies throughout the movie really just killed it for me. Just really just brought it super low.
I don't even know where to begin. Uh, I've always been, I give movies a chance and I just hope saying, you know what? I'm like you, not been a huge fan. I like the first one. Second one was just like you had an amazing, the villain of Venom with Carnage and you whiffed it hard. I was like, and then they started hinting at Null, King in Black, everything like that. So, oh, you haven't earned this, but all right, let's see what you can do. And this is a smack in the face of the fans of Venom, and particularly the King in Black event. This is a smack in the face to those that like Venom as a character, which I do. I'm a fan of Venom as a character. This didn't even come close to sticking the landing. This hit the bounce beam, it jumped off the ugly tree, hit every branch down, and it is not the worst comic book movie of all time. Not even close. All right, it's just not. It's not a good movie. It's really not a good movie. The action scenes, I'm with you. The third act action scenes, yeah, that kept my interest just because I just was very curious when things were starting to go down and go crazy. I said, all right, I'm like Michael Keaton and Batman. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, because nothing else in this movie. Like, the plot's all over the place. The writing is bad. The sequence of events is just like, it's like, what are we doing here? You know, I can't recommend seeing this movie for people. I can't even recommend people when it drops on streaming, because I can point to you other things that are watching. I'll point to you, go watch Lower Decks. I'll point you to a whole different franchise, Star Trek Lower Decks. You'll at least have a better time watching an animated show than this.
I was thinking kind of about along those lines earlier today. I would tell the GA to skip it entirely. I would tell a comic book fan only if you're a completionist. If you feel required to watch any movie based on a Marvel property, then watch it. But otherwise, it's the entire franchise is not worth your time, in my opinion. It's really a shame that this is the version of Venom that has gotten so much play.
And I appreciate that Tom Hardy got to do the movies he wanted to do. Bravo. Absolutely bravo. You proved that you could do a Venom movie without Spider-Man. I didn't say you could prove you could do it well, but you proved you could do it. So, Phil's saying in the chat, looks like apparently it's possibly tracking to make 180 million this weekend.
No way.
I say that's worldwide. If it is, there's no way that's domestic.
I haven't seen that, but if that's worldwide, that blows my mind.
That is an exceeding expectations at that point.
So far the numbers has reported domestically it's made 8.5 million, which would be the Thursday numbers. So
I would happily watch.
Worldwide,
happily.
Worldwide. Okay. I'll believe with that number. Worldwide.
I would happily watch Joker Fully Ado again, and I had problems with that movie, but I still found enjoyment of that movie. I would I that again over this. I would watch Madam Web over this.
I'd watch this before I watched the first Joker. I didn't see the second Joker.
And that's fascinating because of where I have these ranked too. But just because, and I think, and I've heard this say before, is like, Madam Web is so bad it's good. And I said, yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad. I take it back. I wouldn't watch Madam Web again. I'm seeking crazy. No, change that. This is still. I don't know where to begin with this.
I don't know. I just right now, I hope Craven blows me away, which means it just has to be of meh quality at this point, because
I watched that trailer and it still looks like, oh God, what?
In a row. My wife actually tried to tell me when the Craven trailer came out. I was like, we have to watch it for the podcast. She goes, no, you don't. You don't have to watch it. I'm like, I do. I co-host a Marvel show. She goes, you guys can skip this one. I'm like, well, thank you, but we're not going to. It's got a Marvel logo. We're watching it.
I completely take it back, Phil. I'm not watching Madam Web again. I don't even know that. I only own the first Venom movie. I will not own Venom 2, and I'm definitely not owning this.
Right.
It's anyways. All right, let's take our first ad break so we can jump on the spoiler wall because again, this is we're gonna be jumping all over the place. We're not going. I mean, I've got act structures in our show notes, and as Brent pointed out, I did way too much for this in my show notes.
Your notes are way too extensive, but I appreciate them.
Hey, you know what? I'm thorough. So, but all right, but so if you really want to watch Venom: The Last Dance, go for it. Come back and watch it. Or if you, as I put in the chat, responding to Josh, that as he said, I've never watched any of the Venom movies, and based on what I've seen, I never will. And I said, we watch it so you don't have to. Get ready. Brent and I are at least going to have some fun in the next 45 minutes.
We'll see. Let's see how long this takes.
Brent's having fun trying to bet how long this is going to take tonight. So, anyways, before we get into spoilers, here's our ad break. Listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back with Eddie. And we are back. All right. All right. So we open up the movie. We're not opening up with Eddie or Venom. We're opening up with Null. Scraggly-haired ghoul, unrecognizably portrayed by Andy Serkis, at least of the voice. It's never enough for me to say, is it really Andy Serkis right there? I don't know.
My wife said it sounds like the guy who does Golem. I'm like, well, you're right.
Well, you're right.
Like, you nailed it.
Yep, you got it. How'd you know? Calling himself the God of the Void, and he talks about being trapped by the offsprings inside a place called Clintar, which appears to be some sort of void made up of symbiote material. Null yearns to escape and get his revenge, and oh yeah, murder all of existence. Hey, you know what? An elder god's got to have hobbies, you know?
Of course.
The only thing that can free Null is something called the Codex. We don't know what that is yet.
Always a codex. We need a new word.
But at least in this case, they're calling back to comics. Okay, they're at least doing that.
That's true.
Now, what they're doing with it is completely off and doesn't make any sense in that sense. But so thus, Null sends off a minion of beast-like creatures called xenophages. I don't know.
Xenophages or something like that.
Xenophages, yeah.
Like when he said it, it was real hard to understand.
I know. So it's a search for Eddie and Venom. Question: why can they leave Clintar, but Null can't?
I mean, the real answer is because of the plot. But if you want a real answer, they weren't trapped. Null was trapped. So maybe there's some mystical thing tying him there that isn't tying them.
Plot.
But plot is the real answer.
Bad plot. I will say this. Do not judge the character of Null and then even Venom on this whole thing. The King in Black storyline, how Null is introduced into the Marvel Universe, it goes way back in what they brought into its connection to Thor, Gore the God Butcher, the building that Donny Cates did. I mean, Silver Surfer connections. What else? What was it?
The whole King in Black story.
I mean, he brought in so many different things when Donny Cates had part of the cosmic side of it. It was very well thought out, and when I see Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates praise this movie, I'm like, what movie did you see? Seriously, this is not a honoring of what you both did with that run. I don't understand.
I certainly wouldn't take it that way. I can't imagine they would publicly come out and speak ill of the movie, but and they can't really go without saying anything, so they kind of have to say something positive, but they didn't have to come out so positive.
I was just like, even with everything, the track is like, ooh, Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, no, don't do that, because people are going to question what you saw. But again, highly recommend. You got Marvel Unlimited. Give it. There was very well thought out of what this was. This is basically the symbiote's Thanos. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be.
The god of symbiotes.
But here's the thing. he's the boogeyman in the background that has really, I don't, like, if I'm the general audience watching this movie, I don't know really, should I be scared of Null? I'm scared more of his creatures than what he does. I really don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, like it just, this whole thing, the hint about, like, at the end of the last movie saying, oh, he gives that preview of where he's from and everything like that. It's just like, you had it, and it's just like, man, you're thinking you have more power to continue this than you really do. I don't know. It was just, so anyways, where do we go from here after we see Null sending his scary monsters into the void, out of the void?
So I actually like this. I like, because we're going to talk about basically the credit scene from No Way Home, and the trailer showed the character, the bartender from the end of that, Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso, Football is Life, and they show that he's there. A little bit of the symbiote gets left behind. Eddie's in the same clothes, and suddenly, like, in this same bar is Strickland, and General Strickland, and he's collecting the Venom sample. We're all wondering, how is this possible? What stupid thing did Sony do that they're ruining, like, the end of that movie? Are they trying to force their way into the MCU? What's going on here? Well, no, they're in the No Way Home credit scene, and then he gets teleported back like we saw at No Way Home. But you pointed out, the portal's different.
Yes, the portal is different, and this is like Null's portal. So instead of just kind of fading, like being affected, because there was no portal necessarily, it was just Doctor Strange's spell sending him back. There was no Marvel Sparkle portal.
And I actually wonder if that's because, like, they aren't allowed to use that, like, to use the Marvel Sparkles. But regardless, he then shows up in the same bar with the same bartender button in the Venomverse, in his own Earth. And the symbiote does have a funny joke about being done with the multiversal stuff, and like that line, that made me laugh.
I forgot to say, my theater was empty. Completely empty. I was the only one at the 7:00 theater.
We had 14 tickets sold, but as of the trailer starting, not everybody was in there yet. So I don't know if all 14 of them showed up. When Venom leaves that bar scene real quick, like he does this goofy thing, like he's trying to, like, make a cocktail or whatever, and he's throwing
channeling his Tom Cruise cocktail.
Tom Cruise, sure, throwing the various bottles of different kinds of alcohol he was using, and just making a huge mess of the place. He has tendrils everywhere. Frankly, it was a cheesy scene that went on for too long, much like the rest of the movie. He leaves,
or the franchise.
A piece of the symbiote gets left behind him. That's why there was a piece in the symbiote in that bar for General Strickland to find. I'm like, okay. They explained it, at least in a way. Do I have to like it? Maybe it's kind of a lame explanation, but it's an explanation, which I'll take.
It alleviates. A lot of us was saying, oh, please don't retcon what you left behind in 616. And I'm glad they didn't,
Right. Thankfully they didn't. So General Strickland shows up, right?
Played by...
I'm going to butcher his name. I can't do it. The guy who plays Mordo in Doctor Strange, but I will butcher his name.
I know Phil's very good. He helped us pronounce xenophagy, so he'll help us with because we don't want to be that cruel.
Shoot, what F4? That's not right at all. Regardless,
Edgiofor.
Regardless, Strickland shows up. He gets the little sample, and he says to his military people, "Take him too." Right, like. The bartender says,
"Football is life. Leave him alone."
The bartender says, "I was there for, he was just here for a few minutes. He made a mess of my bar or whatever." And that's it. Right? They take him too. Why did they take the bartender? He's met the guy one time for 10 seconds.
Chiwetel Ejiofor. I got the last name.
There you go. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get that. It's just like, why?
Well, it's going to come back up later, so I wanted to make sure we mentioned it now.
Oh, yeah, definitely mention it. So you got Venom wandering about and picking fights with, dog fighters, and that was a cool scene. We kind of saw it in the trailer, so I was already expecting it. But him and Venom seem to be not melding well. Like they're kind of off.
I mean, during that fight scene with the people, like it was interesting. It was a fun action scene. But the "We Are Venom" at the end is definitely off. But even prior to that, there were several times that Venom was like there's one shot he throws Eddie out of his symbiote body to kick a guy. I'm like, why even? It looked cool, but why put him at risk like that? Keep him inside the symbiote. And it does seem like they're. I mean, I guess chalk it up to they're drunk. But
I also think that this is a metaphor for the series.
Just throw Tom Hardy out.
Yeah. And then they get this whole thing like, we got to go to New York and clear our name. I know someone up there. It's like, what?
Some random judge can just clear the name. That's not actually how that works.
Because they think that, I mean, again, he's blamed for the death of Detective Mulligan, who was in the last movie, played by Stephen Graham, and later on we'll see him. He's very much not dead. It's just like, that becomes like the random thing we're trying to get to New York. I was like, okay, sure. Why?
Yeah, pretty much.
So then we get, what is it? This is the part where, I don't think he's gotten on the plane yet to hitch a ride yet, but he wants to go to New York. And so we get, Area 51, we get, General Strickland there, and then we meet our other, character in this, another Ted Lasso alum, Juno Temple, who plays Dr. Teddy Payne, who keeps on talking about like she's living out her brother's dream. And I was like, working in Area 51? Okay, cool.
I guess. I mean, he seemed interested in space and stuff like that. And, they spent an unnecessary amount of time giving her backstory because I'm just going to say it. She was bad. Like,
wasn't good for her.
I chalk it up to the writing, to be honest, because we know she's a much better actress than what we saw here. But she's in this movie, her character was just bad. There's no other way to get around it. Just
very one note, very cliche character. I did like seeing when we're walking around all the different symbiotes they've caught.
Yeah, they look cool, and remember, because all the various symbiotes that like crash landed on Earth in the first movie, but it's like she's one note. She only cares about the science. There's like no humanity to her whatsoever. At one point, Strickland is upset because several of his men died, and her only response is, "Well, did you get samples?" And it's like so heartless, so cold.
Like a scientist sometimes.
She did say at one point, science is sacrifice. Like, that's not a good motto.
Yeah, and then we see that Detective Mulligan is alive, but then they make the comment that I guess the symbiote that it was with him rejected him, and it kind of made him all nutty, and so now he's bonded with another symbiote. Now, this one is actually Toxin.
One that they gave to him, but yeah.
Yeah.
Why even... This symbiote, when we finally see it, it looked cool, I thought. Mm-hmm. But why even go through all this hassle? He already had a symbiote. Why do you need to off-screen tell us that one rejected him, he's dying, so we gave him a different one?
Yeah. And so then we see Venom hitch a ride on the plane, which cool sequence with the I'm just going to call him the Null Minion at that point. And it's comical just because that plane should have crashed so hard.
Yeah, and all right, you can answer a question for me here because I'm too lazy to go back and look. I'm being honest. Was there a scene in the trailers where Venom had wings?
No.
Or am I conflating that with what happens in the Spider-Man 2 game on Sony? Because I know he had it in that, but...
Well, he also had it in the beginning of the... that was the first arc of Donny Cates' run.
Yep, he's had it there too, but they didn't do it like...
No.
Because I was just expecting that after he fell off the plane.
Yep, no wings that I remember.
Okay.
So that plane should have crashed hard. Physics apparently be damned in... this. I mean, it's a comic book movie. Not everything has to be realistic, but that was a little too unrealistic for my brain to deal with. So Venom explains to Eddie that the minion can only track the Codex when he's fully transformed into Venom. And so Venom explains that the Codex is the biological skeleton key that can be forged if a symbiote chooses to resurrect its deceased host. So because Venom saved Eddie's life after Carlton Drake and the symbiote riot killed Eddie, put that in quotes, Eddie, during their battle at the end of the first Venom, the Codex has been created. Okay. Dumb. 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 Dumb.
Just to be clear, dumb the way the Codex is created, or dumb the way that the Codex is used?
We could go with both because they could have easily just done what it was in the comics in the sense of anyone that has been had a symbiote tied to them has a Codex in them, and that becomes a bigger part during the Absolute Carnage arc, not the original Maximum Carnage, but the Absolute Carnage. That's easier to understand than this whole thing of a symbiote saving the life of someone. That's the stupid.
I guess I'll say counterpoint to that is in going by the rules of the movie, which the movie was inconsistent with anyway. They need the Codex to get Noel out of it. Noel needs the Codex to get out of his prison.
I understand that.
Because now every single person who's bonded with a symbiote has a Codex. There's like 10 of them throughout Earth or whatever. There's no possible way for them to stop all of them.
Fair. Maybe it's just Venom has the most powerful one because he's been with him the longest.
Maybe. Now that said, it seemed, and I actually kind of like the way they showed from the monster's point of view, the way they could see the Codex, where it's like all gray, kind of reminded me of Daredevil, actually.
Yeah,
like,
say discount Daredevil vision.
Outlines and stuff. Discount Daredevil vision. And when Venom is like fully morphed, like into Venom, like he's taken over, you see the little blip of Codex there where it represents it. But as soon as he unmorphs, the monster doesn't see him anymore. Okay, we have our rules. Venom can partially come out. He can't fully transform, or he's literally turning on a beacon. He's acting like a lighthouse for this monster thing. At this point, why would Venom come out at all? Because Venom didn't have to come out again.
No, I know why. I know why they needed budget.
Sure, budget. They didn't need Venom to come out again until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you realize that?
Oh yeah,
well,
I do.
Arguably one other possible time when they're in the river. But even that, Venom didn't take over. So there's no actual time the rest of the movie until the event that kicks off the third act battle that they even needed Venom to come out. He could have made it all the way to New York if Venom had just stayed inside.
Yeah.
Quite literally, if Eddie had just kept it in his pants.
Yeah. Eddie, keep it in your pants, Eddie.
Oh God, no! Don't. I regret it.
I don't. All right, let's take our next ad break before we start continuing on with this lovely breakdown and all the fun that Brent and I are having, because I'm having some fun, aren't you?
I mean, I'm having more fun talking about the movie than I did watching it.
All right, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so they're wandering throughout the desert, and we get that the full sequence of Venom Horse, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Venom Horse was cool. It was kind of funny the way he was about to fall off. I remember thinking in the comics questioning why Eddie was, or in the comics, in the trailers, why Eddie was outside the symbiote and just riding along. Now I understand why, because they were trying not to combine Venom and Eddie. Venom can obviously take over the horse, but he can take over a different being, but he can't take over Eddie specifically, or it's like when their powers combine, the Codex is formed or whatever. So, but the horse thing, it was cool.
Yeah, and so this eventually leads to the ambush by Strickland and his men, who, and men and women, soldiers, where we see the Null minion show up and apparently is a monster wood chipper.
Yeah, so there's this whole river scene where like Venom ends up in the water, or I should say Venom and Eddie separated end up in the water, and these military people are like hanging from a plane and then drop into the water. They have jet propelled whatever, like air jets to push him through the water. They're all trying to chase Eddie, who's in the front of everybody. And at one point, Venom and Eddie, I think, had come together because they did the beacon. The beacon got turned on, the Codex beacon, for the monster to come get him. I had a big problem in this scene when the military people used a net to try and catch the symbiote, and they slowed it down when it should have been able to just go right through all the holes of the net. And eventually it did, but it took way longer than it should have.
What do you think of the Venom symbiote jumping on different creatures?
I thought that was cool. The frog looked pretty awesome looking. Yeah. You know, that'd make a great Funko Pop. My wife mentioned if there had been a bird, it could have jumped to the bird and just flown ahead to Eddie in front of everything. But I think the frog looked pretty cool.
And then why did we have to have Eddie kill the random soldier?
Yeah, so that soldier's basically trying to kill Eddie. Eddie kills her in self-defense, shows remorse, upset, really, like, it's really hitting Eddie hard for about 10 minutes, of movie time, like 10 seconds of real time. And it's like basically not brought up again. Well, maybe one other time Strickland says, "You killed one of my soldiers."
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then we get them, he escapes and then meets the hippie family, Martin played by Reese Ifans, who is aka the Lizard in other Spider-Man movies. His family, and no, the son is not Peter Parker. Stop it. Stop that. Don't
Seriously?
ever.
Is that a thing people are saying?
That was a thing people were saying when some of the trailers were. I know, yeah. People quit trying to make that a thing in the Venom movies. They don't want it. They can't do it. I don't understand this. I don't understand the purpose of this. I mean, I'll tell you what. Reese Ifans, he had a lot of fun doing this, and he understood the part. He understood, he was comical.
There was
not
some
necessary
comic relief, but it's definitely some comic relief there. But like that scene where they're all singing, I'm just like, oh my god, why are we here? What are you doing? Basically mirroring what Eddie was thinking.
I know. I was saying, Eddie, you're exactly feeling like I'm feeling watching this movie and watching the scene. I said, get me out of here.
Okay, there's a scene when they're in the van and they're driving. And let me preface this with, I've talked about before how bad outdoor daytime green screen, just for some reason, is a pet peeve of mine. It really, really bothers me in movies when you can tell like how bad the background is, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene when they're in the van and the shot is from the front seats to the back, like she pointed at Eddie, who's in the back seat. And if you look at the left side, the background is moving as the van is driving along. Makes sense. You would expect if you look outside the window, you see the terrain move, right? The right side was still. It wasn't moving at all. I was so agitated at this. I'm like, it's not a story thing or anything. It's just a bad CGI moment.
Yeah.
But it just struck me as lazy. And I'm sure it was more of a, we're out of time, so something had to give or something got missed. But it just bothered me seeing it in there. And especially because a lot of the special effects in this movie I actually think look pretty good, and I wouldn't call lazy at all. But just, again, it's just a pet peeve of mine. It's been that way for years. Like pretty much since X2 is just the first time I really noticed one at the end of that movie. That I just can't stand that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then we go back to Area 51. Toxin Detective Mulligan says that the reason they've been fighting all of these symbiotes is because they're on the run from Null, and they're looking for asylum. Obviously, Strickland isn't convinced of that. In any case, Toxin and Strickland are of one mind. The issue, got to get Eddie, Brock, and Venom, because he's got the Codex. You got to figure it out, take him down, because you can't. If you kill one of them, the Codex dies. Null can't get out. So, let's just take the whole Vegas scene in one.
Oh my god. Okay.
This was. I know he's trying to get to New York. I get it. He's trying to get out of there. He's trying to find a way to get.
He took a ride. Somebody was, headed east,
Yep.
and they were going as far as Vegas. So clearly not anywhere near far enough. But he's hurt. He's tired. He needs the break. Take the ride. Sure.
Pause too. The whole thing with the family selling their everything so that they can go to Area 51. No.
Just 3 days before it's decommissioned or whatever.
Yeah. Because they're tired of all the people coming there. Oh, you finally you finally decided to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Vegas thing, I just didn't find it funny. I found it, and the whole Mrs. Chen dancing thing, I still was trying to figure out why that was. I'm not the audience for that.
I will say I chuckled at the slot machine part when Venom was playing slots, but it went on too long. But I did chuckle at it. The guy in this tuxedo who he peed on Eddie's feet.
Yeah.
And he stole the suit off of. One, Eddie lost like another pair of shoes. He lost like 4 pairs of shoes in this. Two, I kept thinking to myself, have they shown us that Venom in this movie can change the clothes that Eddie is wearing?
No, he hasn't.
Like in any of these movies? Like,
that's been a key component for him in the comics.
That's such a big part of what he can do is like he's a master of camouflage. And then Eddie runs into Mrs. Chen. Fine. I'll buy it.
She's been a constant throughout the series.
And it's Vegas. You just run into people in Vegas. I'll buy it. I've been to Vegas at the same time as people before. Totally unplanned. I was in Vegas one time with my brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law on my other side of my family was there with her fiance at the time. Like, just totally unexpected. But the dancing scene. Mrs. Chen wants to dance. Eddie does not want to dance. Venom wants to dance. Venom takes
I
over
want to
and
dance,
comes.
Eddie.
After Venom has like made a point of like, agreeing with Eddie's decision to tell the little boy aliens aren't real, don't scare him, you're going to be a good dad. We won't eat this family. We have to protect people. We're the lethal protectors, protect the innocents. We can't ever morph because we can't let this thing find us. He breaks all of that just so he can have a dance with Mrs. Chen. Absolutely ludicrous. Horrible writing. Just stupid. And on top of it all, the whole third act battle, none of that happens if he doesn't dance with Mrs. Chen. They just have a pleasant evening gambling in Vegas, and then he goes about on his trip to the Statue of Liberty. I hated that.
So and here's the other thing too. When Strickland men get him, they get Eddie, they get Venom. They don't nab Mrs. Chen too? What's the difference between her and the bartender?
Right. She's had interactions with him for a year. They established that Venom and Eddie have been together for a year. And are you telling me that the military, who has all these access to facial recognition software and stuff on all these cameras, they don't know that where Eddie Brock lives? They don't know the convenience store that Eddie Brock used to go to all the time? Like where he would, like, just ridiculous that Danny Rojas has a 10-second interaction with the symbiote and he gets taken. Mrs. Chen is friends with it and nothing. Like they just leave her there. And side note, I realized it wasn't Eddie's choice to go to Vegas because he was just taking the ride. Mm-hmm. There's so many cameras there. He doesn't need to actively go inside to the casinos, and he could try and cover his face a little bit more. Like you're trying to hide out. You're on the lam. Like, why are you
monkey on the lam like a turd in the wind?
Just walking around with his face just up, looking at everything. It's like he might as well have had a sign, Eddie Brock, right here with an arrow pointed to him.
Yeah. So, anyways, we now go to Area 51 and discussions are had, and then we get to basically the big long fight that occurs when the Null Minion breaks through because he's transformed. They've found the codex.
How did the Null Minion find him?
He transformed.
So when Null's thing shows up at Mrs. Chen's penthouse suite, Eddie the symbiote goes away, and immediately he can't find him, even though they're right in front. And so it takes off. But he's able to follow them when the symbiote and Eddie are physically separated at this point. Makes no sense.
Yeah, again, they missed the boat on that one, fixing that one.
I genuinely believe people misuse the word plot hole. I think that's a plot hole.
I think that's a very big plot hole.
The
You know,
plot does not work with what they told us about it. I think that's a plot hole.
And then you get a full transformation of Toxin, only for him to sacrifice himself to protect Venom. Everything the whole place gets utterly destroyed. Venom and Doctor what I already forgot the name.
Dr. Payne.
Dr. Payne. They free the symbiotes because again they protect them, and you get them all latching on to different scientists and going all full on crazy symbiotes with the different power sets that they have. And eventually they take it out to the field. Again, it's just a big old symbiote wood chipper fight.
Pretty much. And I actually liked it. They're like, let the symbiotes out. They can help us.
Yeah.
They do that. Symbiotes each take over somebody. One of them takes over, Juno Temple's character, Dr. Payne's
Not yet.
friend.
Not yet. That comes at the friend, yes.
Yeah, and takes over her friend, the Christmas tree one. And she was a cool symbiote. There's that two symbiotes that merged together. There's the one that was super buff. They were fun to watch. They were cool to look at. I thought they looked good. Sometimes it was a little hard to see what they were doing when fighting the monsters, but it was a cool, fun action scene.
And I think that's probably one of the best scenes and the best sequences in the movie is this ending fight.
Unquestionably.
At one point, Martin and his family are there, and Eddie's got to protect him, and things happen. He's able to do it, and then Martin ends up shooting one of the null wood chipper minions with a rocket launcher,
whatever it is.
Yeah, but these things can go full Terminator and reanimate. I don't know, regenerate.
Yeah, the regeneration looks pretty cool. I did like how that looked. When he shoots the grenade or the rocket launcher at the one and blows it up, what I did laugh at was the thing's eye turned to look in his direction, and he just said sorry and ran off.
Yeah,
dumb, corny. It did get a laugh out of me.
Yeah, it's So, and at some point, Eddie gets injured. I kind of missed that when that exactly happened, but he gets injured, and Venom kind of rejoins him, heals him, and they kind of have this. We've come to the end of the road, and Lassie's going to have to do something that's going to end Lassie.
With the let's see, acid bath it was, right?
Yeah, so Venom goes full, jumps off of Eddie and basically strangleholds as many of the creatures there and drags them into the acid bath. And Strickland, who's injured as well, sacrifices himself to turn on the acid bath, and the creature's destroyed. Venom symbiote is destroyed, thus ending the Codex. And yeah, just no more Venom.
No more Venom. Eddie's alive. Some random military guy is there when Eddie wakes up. He's like, your symbiote's gone. This is your new lease on life. But if you ever talk about any of this, we're going to throw you in the prison, and cue the musical montage.
Yeah. And he's walking through New York around saying, I'll never forget you, and sees the Statue of Liberty. The end.
The end.
And then we get mid-credit scene where we see Null exclaim, your champion has fallen, planets will be mine, the king in black is awake, I will kill your world, everyone will burn, and you will watch.
So he can get out anyway?
Yeah, how?
I mean, he's not out yet, but
I'm pretty confident right now. I mean, I get I'm going to do this, the positive thinking, that's the secret of life, I guess. Sure, I still am a general audience member that's just not really afraid of you.
Yeah, the interest isn't there right now, and you're right. Like one of the things I believe you said, either as a fact or fiction, or in the predictions, was
Yeah.
Noel and
Oh,
Venom
yeah.
would not speak,
And they did not.
They did not. You were absolutely right about that one, and I actually feel like that hurt the character of Noel some because it just could have. He wasn't intimidating this way. He could have been like over in front of Venom, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
like Thanos wasn't intimidating at the end of Avengers, really. He wasn't intimidating in Age of Ultron. You didn't see anything intimidating about him until maybe Guardians of the Galaxy when he started interacting with people. Right? Like if they had Noel interact with somebody, then maybe it would be different.
Yeah. So, and then we get a even more, slightly meaningful post-credit scene where the bartender comes out into the destroyed Area 50. Oh, you know what we forgot? We forgot Dr. Teddy and taking the...
She did take the last vial of symbiote and put it on herself.
And becoming the symbiote Agony, who's got kind of lightning powers in order to save her other lab tech friend, scientist. And so she's out there being Agony, all that stuff. And so, so the bartender comes out in the destroyed Area 51, and then we kind of see the vial that had Agony in it, cockroaches wandering about with it, possibly. Oh, maybe not Agony, maybe Venom. I don't know. It's just hinting at possibly there's a way for Venom to come back. I don't know.
And of course, earlier in the movie, Payne had talked about how you can't kill a cockroach.
Yeah. So we needed a payoff with that. I don't know. What's the better payoff? With Aquaman eating cockroaches, or at the end of that movie, I don't know.
Yeah, forgot about that one.
So that's Venom: The Last Dance. Again, stick to my ideas. Hopefully you had a better time listening to us break it down, so you didn't have to spend money with it. I can't recommend this movie. I cannot recommend this movie. Period. End of story. Can't do it.
Nope.
So Sony is 0 for 2. This year. Brent, rate this movie out of 10 first.
I don't know, like a 2.
Man, I
really didn't like it. Like I left it saying it was better than Madam Web, but the more I think on it, the more I'm like, I'm not. Maybe I still feel that way, but the fact that I'm even questioning it is just a massive indictment on the movie.
Yeah. Where does this rank in your Spider-Man? Well, first Venom, and then in the whole Spider-Man universe.
Madam Web is the bottom of my overall Spider-Man stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm putting this one slot above that. Slot above that. So it's the worst of the Venom movies, and Madam Web is the only movie I have worse. My Venom movies are 2, 1, 3 for the order because I liked 2 more than 1. I was just so disappointed by 1, and at that point, I didn't think they could disappoint me much further until this one.
Yeah, Madam Web's bottom for me. This is second to last, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my full Spider-Man rankings, and Morbius is still above this. It's above the second Venom, and it is right behind the other Venom. Yeah, it's just bad. Bad. I will probably never be rewatching this unless I have to. And I don't think I will ever have to. So,
all the game. Odds of Craven being the first movie in this terrible universe to not get a Rotten Tomato. Slim. They're slim.
Yeah.
You mean the rated R super gory thing that they moved to December for the families and Christmas time?
Yeah, families and Christmas. It's slim at best. Yeah.
But I hope I would much rather go see a good movie. So
Outlook not so good according to the Magic 8 Ball. So. All right. Well, as we said, this is not the last movie of the year. We will see Craven in December for everyone else who, some people are a little more high up than others. But again, 0 for 2 right now, Sony. 0 for 2. So we'll see what the box office does for this first weekend. But Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Brent Tech Prime on the socials, mainly on Twitter. I'm ashamed to say, but I've got some group chats on there, so they keep me going back.
Yep. And you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balligan. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel 8 Podcast. You can email the show at podcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback. Ask Factor Fictions. Want to thank our sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Continue to rate, review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, GUA network feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits. Predictions for the future of Venom and Spider-Man as a result of this movie.
There were all kinds of rumors about Spider-Man 4 in this, right?
Yes, all kinds of rumors, and we will say that Spider-Man 4 received, as of today's recording, we have a date for Spider-Man 4. What is that date, Brett?
July 24, 2026.
All right, so we have a date. We are 2 years away from it.
I really thought we would get something related to Spider-Man in this movie.
I'm kind of glad we didn't.
I am glad we didn't. Pleasantly surprised by that.
Because Sony's going to Sony and really try to make a thing happen.
Let's just predict it now, though. I think Tom Hardy as Venom will be back.
I think Tom Hardy is back. I think he's at least showing up in Secret Wars. They are the fact that they did what they did at Null is making me worried in the sense of you're going to shoehorn Null into a Spider-Man movie that has no business being in a Spider-Man movie.
Who's writing, directing? It's I'm forgetting their names. It's at least one of the same writers from the previous movies, and then Destin Daniel Cretton is of Shang-Chi fame is directing.
Correct. I will trust because even Far From Home is last on my list of the Home trilogy is bottom of my list. It's still not like the worst thing. Even when they did that, it wasn't completely dumpster fire as this is. Kevin Feige's got to be watching this one close. You know, if this is what's going to happen, we're going to start bringing symbiotes after we just reestablished. So, I think it's going to be some multiverse stuff because we also got confirmed that it will be between Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Right. So there's going to be some multiverse shenanigans for sure. We're not going to get the pure street level movie that so many of us want. That's okay. That doesn't mean they're not going to give us a great movie. Someday we'll get that street level movie. But
will Tom Hardy be in Spider-Man 4? I'm saying no. I'm going to say no right now.
Let's just hypothetically say yes.
Okay.
Would he be the same Venom or would he be a variant?
I'll take a variant.
If the symbiote's killed on his Earth, but there's a piece of the symbiote on 616, variant Tom Hardy?
I'll take that if it's a better version of what I want.
Yeah, give us you're saying there's a chance.
Okay, yeah. I'll say there's a chance of it, but I don't want it to be this Venom. But I hate to say it, it's probably going to be.
It is probably going to be this Venom. I'd rather it be a Venom with that logo on his chest, like what you have on your Venom shirt right now.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm saying no just because my heart has been so disappointed by this and kicked to the curb. It's not my Venom. If you like this Venom, again, I
then you already stopped listening to us.
Then you've already stopped listening because at that point I don't think less of you. Again, I like things. We all like things that people say, why do you do this? But it just wasn't for me. This wasn't the Venom I wanted. Again, I said at the opening of the show, I'm glad Tom Hardy got to do the thing he wanted. Great. I would like to see a Venom done right now. So.
Yep.
But all right. Well, we will see you next Friday for our conclusion of Agatha All Along, last 2 episodes. So again, have a good week. If you're going to see Venom, good luck to you. Godspeed, and may the Force be with you. And Eddie.